Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon. I'm sorry.
All right. I'm calling the meeting of Pittsylvania County Service Authority to order for October the 20th, 3:30. And I'm going to ask everybody, I hope you don't notice that my energy's a little down. I just finished my dialysis, so I've got a little bit of energy drink. But if it will, Ms. Caitlin, if you will give us roll call.
Mr. Davis?
Present.
Mr. Dudley?
Present.
Mr. Palmer?
Here.
Mr. Ingram?
Here.
Mr. Scarrow?
Here.
Mr. Warren?
Here.
Dr. Miller?
Yes. Are there any revisions to our agenda, please? Hearing none, motion for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? All right. Consent agenda, please. Oh, I'm sorry. Approval of last minutes, rather. Motion.
Make that motion to approve the agenda.
All right. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All any opposed? All right. All right. Are there any citizens who will?
Nobody signed up, Mr. Chairman, so you can discuss with reading that paragraph.
All right. All right. Mr. Adcock, please.
Good afternoon.
Good
Good afternoon. I think we ought to just back up and front. Oh, nice.
Our employee spotlight for October is Mr. Matt Gosnell. Matt is a water and sewer operations technician. Matt is another product of our county school system, having graduated from Roswell and Whitmore Elementary Schools and graduated from Huntsville High, as well as the Vocational Center's Auto Body Repair Program. After high school, Matt attended Hamilton Community College and obtained a graphic arts degree. Matt started with the Service Authority in 2007. As an operations technician, he helped with water and sewer taps, leaks, sewer blockages, meter reading, customer service, pump station repair and troubleshooting, and vehicle and equipment maintenance. During the growing season, Matt spent much of his time doing our ground maintenance on our 19 pump stations and 6 water storage tanks. To visit all those facilities in one day, it would be well over 100 miles round trip. Even with all that territory to cover, I always bet he's put more miles on our lawnmower than he has on his vehicle. He spent a lot of time doing that. As a retired volunteer firefighter, Matt understands the importance of keeping our hydrants visible, and he does a great job with all 600 of those assets. Matt has been a lifelong servant to this community, having spent 20 years as a Huntsville volunteer firefighter and 2 years as the captain. In addition, he has served as assistant scoutmaster and adult leader for Troop and Pack 377 at Whitmore United Methodist Church. He has had the pleasure of helping guide a number of Eagle Scouts to achieve that impressive goal, as well as volunteering his time to help numerous other youth enjoy the scouting experience. In his spare time, he enjoys canoeing and fishing, which makes him a great scout leader. Matt is the father of 2 honor graduates and 1 graduate of merit, and this month marks his 25th wedding anniversary. Please join me in thanking Matt for his service to Pittsylvania County. Matt, would you like to say anything?
Not that at all.
Thank you, sir.
Married for 25 years, you know not to say first. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Mr. Adcock, you gonna give him a raise?
That's above my.
All right, y'all, Mr. Gosnell did the best I could.
We move on to
Sure. Yes, go ahead.
item B, okay. The water and sewer long range plan engineering services, we mentioned at the last meeting that we had issued RFQs, requests for quotations, or requests for proposals from engineering companies to do a comprehensive water and wastewater infrastructure master plan for us. We ended up with 4 respondents, and we chose 3 of those 4 firms to interview personally. And after those interviews, we ranked the firms, and we chose to negotiate with Freeze and Nichols. So Mr. Charles Archer, the VP with Freeze and Nichols, is here today to go over their proposal. And I'd like to ask him to come up and do that presentation for you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
You're getting better each time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, for allowing me to join you this afternoon. As Chris said, my name is Charles Archer. I'm with the consulting firm of Freeze and Nichols, and we're excited about this opportunity to work with you all, Pittsylvania County and the community, on an update of your water wastewater master plan. It kind of just maps out what the future history of water wastewater systems as the county continues to grow and change in the years to come. And so please, love to keep this informal. Feel free to ask me questions along the way. Also at the end, I'll do my best to answer your questions. If I don't have an answer, I'll get you an answer. That's fair enough for you all. Hopefully, I want to talk a little bit about why do water wastewater master planning. It's like any other plan that communities do, your comprehensive plans, the banks, etc. It's a map of the future. Your water and wastewater systems, you'll probably be familiar with, or will become familiar with this. You have significant investment in those assets. They're not inexpensive assets to operate and own and operate a water and wastewater system. This pump station that were mentioned, the water tanks, all the lines that are in the ground, the water that you have to purchase, the water that has to be treated, it's an expensive undertaking. And to do a master plan like any other plans do is you're trying to map out and prepare for the future. Essentially, the master plan will help you make decisions on where, when, and how much to invest in the water wastewater systems in the future. Help you be more proactive and less reactive in making those investments and making those decisions over time. The drawing on the screen just kind of shows the workflow of doing a water and wastewater master plan. But we'll be looking at things like make sure you have enough capacity in the right places, that you have the right fire plug that you need in the right places, the water quality that's needed, the capacity to treat the wastewater in the right places, and that you can stay compliant with all your environmental permits to operate a water and wastewater system. We'll identify any deficiencies or potential deficiencies that may arise in the future. And at the kind of end of the master planning process, we will help you develop a capital improvement program. And that will map out those investments that are needed and when they're needed, what the probable cost of those are going to be, and for that. And it will have triggers. If it's needed in a certain year or needed because a certain event happens, because of growth and development, those types of things. We also use the master plan as a tool to make any decisions about land use, about economic development opportunities, etc. And also, it can help you when it comes time for applying for grants, that you've been able to show that you've been thoughtful and thought about what the long-term impacts are for your master plan. One thing about the process is we don't do this in a vacuum. We don't go to some back room somewhere, come out with your plans. It's a collaborative process working with you as the governing body, working with your staff, regulatory agencies that have authority over the permits that are issued for your systems, your existing partners that you buy water from, sell water to, those types of things, also potential partners and your stakeholder groups like the county, city of Danville, etc. All those folks are involved in this process because the system is connected to all these people. And everybody needs to be a part of what the long-range thought process is going to be. A little bit about Freeze and Nichols. Like I say, this isn't our first rodeo doing something like this. We've been in business for 126 years. We're a little bit different than a lot of consulting engineering firms in that we don't do private development. So we don't design shopping centers and subdivisions. We work for public sector clients, cities, towns, counties, a little bit for state governments and a little bit for the federal government. But local government is kind of our sweet spot. We were founded on water and wastewater system design, development, planning 126 years ago. And it's something that we do a lot for our clients across the southeastern United States. We've got probably one of the largest, if not the largest, water wastewater master plan group in the country within our company. And you can see on the screen that in the last 3 years, we've done 72 master plans, served over 9 million people. We've done small communities, large cities, urban to rural, the whole gamut there. And so we have a lot of experience in it. A lot of it, what we've learned, we can share and hopefully help Pittsylvania County and save you some time and money to go through the process. We have divided the proposed work for your master plan into 3 major tasks. And the first task is that traditional master plan, where we will take the data that you all have about your system, we'll review it, we'll analyze it, we'll map it out, what your assets are, what the conditions are. Then the second phase, after we have a handle on what the data is for your system, we'll begin to look at what are the growth patterns, what the land use and demand projections for your system in the future, now and in the future, what might be the capacity limits of certain parts of the system. And out of that, we'll create a dynamic forecasting tool. It's a tool that you can use, your staff can use to help make decisions as you have potential developments or make investments in your system in the future. We're proposing a 20-year planning horizon. That doesn't mean you don't have to do another thing for 20 years on your master plan. But we're forecasting what's going to happen for the next 20 years as best you can. And as you all know, it's impossible to know what things are going to be like 20 years from today. We're pretty good about 5 years, 10 years. Okay, just keep that far out. It's getting really hard. You have to revisit from time to time. But that dynamic forecasting tool that will provide you would help you extend the life of that of the plan as well. But the cost of this task is about $127,000. The second task is your staff has asked us to look at your existing extension policies for your utility system and your other policies related to that. So what we're proposing to do is to review all your policies, get a good understanding of those, to do a peer review of other communities that you want to be compared to for their policies, to identify best practices that you may want to apply here in your county, and then draft any new policies that you may want to consider adopting in the not too distant future. And the third task, the final task of this is a rate study. And you know, I mentioned in task one of the outcomes of that will be a capital improvements program, which means it's capital investments that you're going to have to make in the system. This is the part that tells you how to pay for it. It helps you determine how to pay for it. So we'll look at your existing rate structure, how you compare to your peers across the state and in this part of the state, and help you determine how much revenue is needed to win, and what's the best rate structure for the county. There are different options that you can consider there, and recommend short-term, mid-term, and long-term rate structures or rates for your system to fund your capital improvement program that's needed for the system over time. And for that, this task is about $18,000. This is a quick overview of the schedule. You'll see the colors, the blue, the green, and let's call that gold. The blue is that first task, the traditional master planning that we propose to get started next month in November and wrap that up by August or early September of next year. You see the extension policy portion is the green bar. Like to get that done. Your staff would like to get it done quickly, and so that we would jump on that and have that finished up by early next year. And you'll notice that the rate study is divided into two separate time frames. The first one that's February, March, is to coincide with your budget plans for next fiscal year. Look at what you may need to do, if anything, to your rates for next year. And then the remaining bars, June through August, is once we have completed that CIP, we're able to look at long-term, what you need to be thinking about for your rates for long-term, to be completely transparent about that. So that's kind of the overall schedule, about 10 to 12 months to get this completed before you and wrap all wrapped up. That's it in a nutshell. So I'm happy to try to answer your questions as best I can, because I don't have any questions.
All right, we thank you, Mr. Archie.
Thank you.
All right, yes, sir.
We appreciate the opportunity to be here, the opportunity to work with you all.
Thank you, sir. All right, Mr. Adcock, if you will, new business, sir.
So new business would be the, part A would be the approval of this proposed project with Freeze and Nichols. I recommend to proceed with task 1, 2, and 3, the long-range plan, the rate study, and also the extension policy review and recommendation. We would need a next motion.
Yes, and you have money budgeted for this, right?
Yes, sir. Please.
Well, it's in your call.
Yes.
I make that motion, Mr. Chairman. I second.
All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All right, all opposed?
All right. Moving on to the Robin Gordon River Road Water System Improvements Funding Update. I think the last meeting we mentioned that we had made application to the Virginia Department of Health, their planning program, planning and design fund program, to help us with our facilities at the River Road system and also the Robin Court well system. So we have been successful in receiving the grants from VDH, in the amount of $35,000 for Grit Road, which will help us prepare a preliminary engineering report to address the disinfection byproducts that we've been experiencing on Grit Road. And then on Robin Court, we received $22,100, which will also be done for a preliminary engineering review to help us with the radium exceedances we've been experiencing at the Robin Court system. So just wanted to update you that those did come in successfully, and we are in the process of moving forward with those projects.
So that won't pay for everything, but it'll help towards the final goals.
Yeah, it'll pay for the engineering reports, and if there is a construction project that comes out of that, we would be highly in line for some kind of a funding to VDH going through this process. So that we may need to do an extension, either wherever we decide on Robin Court, we may extend the Chatham system, if that's the suggested path. We may end up digging a new well and blending with the existing well. We may be able just to we're working with DEQ to study that existing well to see if the high radiant is coming in at a certain level. If they do determine that, we can possibly cap off that inflow, and it may reduce the amount to get us down below the level that we are at. And I think I mentioned to you last month, we're just barely above the exceedance level with our values. So if we could do something like that, that would be the most cost-effective solution to the problem. Any questions on that?
No motion needed, that was just an update.
Yeah, that's an update. Second item is also an update, utility cutoffs. We've discussed that the State Corporation Commission has rescinded or stopped the moratorium on private utility cutoffs. That was effective October the 5th. We have been following that moratorium even though we're not under the SEC's guidelines, but most public utilities have also been following that and not doing cutoffs during the pandemic emergency. So what I would like to recommend that we reinstate the cutoff policy so that we're starting to build up some delinquent customers. We are probably in the 15,000 range right now. I did a little checking. Henry County has been cutting off. They started theirs back as soon as the more. Actually, they started theirs in September, and then they did some in October too. Halifax is still holding on, and I understand that the governor has an amendment that I don't know when that's proposed to come through, a budget amendment that includes maybe an extension of this policy. So I'm hoping that I would like to try to get in and get at least some of the major delinquencies, try to get that under control in anticipation of maybe an additional cutoff on that. And his recommendation, I'm not so sure will even apply to public utilities. So I just kind of wanted to discuss that, and I'll make a recommendation that we move forward. Some of these customers are maybe truly in need. Some of them are typical delinquent customers. There are some programs out there that we're aware of that will offer some support for the customers if they do the legwork and go after it. But what we want to do is send a letter to the delinquent customers, giving them about 2 weeks from probably later this week. We'd like to send that letter out, and then if we don't get any response in that 2-week period, we'll go ahead and initiate cutoffs. And then we will also work with them to do work with the Treasurer's Office to do a payment plan to allow them to come up with an acceptable payment plan.
So the help's out there, that all they gotta do is go out.
I don't have the specifics on the help, but I do know there's some that's available.
Okay.
And I will do the research and try to include that verbiage or that direction in the letter if I do find that there's some positive places they can go to find that help. Yeah. There's no pushback from you guys. I'll go ahead and move forward with that.
Do you need a motion on
No, it's fine.
Okay.
We have consensus. Just to be clear, the governor's moratorium did not apply to municipal owned utilities services. It applied to private providers.
Right.
So, we've already extended the no cutoffs just as a courtesy and good faith during the COVID situation.
Sure.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
I recently read the stuff you're talking about with the government. I may be the only one involved. I'm a little uncomfortable with moving as quick as the end of this week to start those cutoffs, not knowing what's coming out of the state to benefit those people. I mean, we're going on these things we might, I'd rather see us implement the cutoffs and give them 2 weeks. Once you've got clarity, it's just personal. Once you've got clarity on what's in the state relief package, that's this one.
Well, one of the, I guess what my intent was to go ahead and send the letters this week and then give them a 2-week response time prior to initiating the cutoffs. And then that may give us some time to see and then we don't necessarily have to move forward with that, but we need to make a notification on that.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I'll make the motion that we not allow PCSA to send those letters this week, that they have to wait until there's clarity from the state on what we're anticipating from them, and as soon as that is completed, then staff has the authority to send the letters and start the 2-week process after the letter. Not that I don't agree with what you're trying to do. I'm just concerned about us starting something and then having to back up if the state says Y or Z. So I would just rather have time
You got some money to make, I agree with him. Give a little bit more time.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion is passed.
Thanks for the job. That's what I really want. What are we gonna do? Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just, you know, for me, Mr. Adcock, I'm just, you know, we got so many people that are pandemic that didn't have anything to do with it. The Chinese.
Yes.
I'm just uncomfortable with, I understand that probably 90% of them are taking advantage, but that 10% needs to be protected.
Sure. Yeah, and I didn't want to not act, and then we get a big balance, and then have to come to you and say, well, why did you were clear to do something, why didn't you do it? So, I mean, that's
And
fine with me.
I trust once you read the governor's thing, that, so it's, I have 100% confidence in you make that decision.
Okay, thank you.
Right. All in there, thank you, Mr. Adcock. Are there any matters from the authority?
Chairman, I just had a quick couple of questions for Mr. Adcock, if he doesn't mind. I know you probably read the letter I received from a resident who complained that he didn't get his line marked from a meter to his house. And I guess my questions are, one, is there anywhere on the website that's posted the policy? And the second thing is there any way we can maybe do a policy where we could, make sure they sign a statement saying you're not responsible for marking those lines, and if they do anything at their risk, it's just give them an idea. I don't know how much it would tax your employees to have to do that kind of work, or, I just don't, I'm trying to look out for the customers, because I know, most people don't have the ability to mark those kind of lines, and I didn't know if that would be something you could consider, or again, if it's gonna tax your employees when they're out there trying to do the job, I don't want to push them too far, but again, I want to try to protect the residents at the same time.
Sure, well, my reservation on that is that when we mark our utilities, we have plans that, from the construction of the project, that shows us pretty much exactly where it is.
So you guys don't have any kind of meter or anything that you're using to?
We do have a metal detector, but I would say 90 to 95% of service lines from the meter to the house are plastic PVC. And it puts a liability back on the county to mark those if we're saying, okay, well, this is where it is, and they come do and trench it, and they take a line out, and then they're gonna want us, they're gonna say, you marked it here, we did it, so it's your responsibility. So that's where I'm really hesitant, because we don't have plans on it.
Well, I guess the big thing though is maybe if you can somehow get that added to the website, that it is a policy, because I guess that was his other complaint, he couldn't find anywhere on the website where it said that was our policy, and he of course complained that it had been done in the past, and didn't know why it couldn't be done now, but if there's a clear cut policy that can be posted on the website, it'll be fine.
Yeah, okay, well, I can look at that. The 811 program basically covers the, public utilities, but I'll see if there's any verbiage on that. If not, I'll add that to it, just to say that our policy, if we don't have a published policy on that, but it's been long-standing, so we don't want problems.
Yeah, just, like I said, I understand where he's coming from, but again, it's just plastic, I don't know how you can actually market it.
We mentioned Reggie's talent, with his divining rods, but I don't want to put too much faith in those things when it comes to the money.
My dad was pretty good at that, but again, that was different rules. I appreciate it. Like I said, just so that the confusion, he couldn't find anywhere where the policy was stated. Again, I understand where it's coming from. It says, if it's a difficult one, the department has to get that accomplished. I understand that. And I just make sure it's plastered everywhere so people start, giving us our time about it because it's not stated properly.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's maybe a good opportunity to go ahead and do an explanation of the 811 system for our customers so that they're aware of that, the need to do that, whenever they're doing any kind of projects. And a lot of like gas lines, the gas company does maintain all the way to the house, because the gas meter is at the house, because they don't want customers dealing with that volatile, gas meter. And the same thing with electric, so they do probably mark to the house. It's just that we mark our meter, and that's always been our demarcation between public and private property.
Thank you.
Thank you again, Mr. Hancock. All right. Motion for closed session, please.
Yeah, I'll be happy to read this for you, Mr. Chairman. We have one closed session tonight. Discussion concerning prospective business or industry or the expansion of existing business or industry where no previous announcement has been made of the businesses or industry's interest in locating or expanding its facilities in the community legal authority, Virginia Code Section 2.2, 3711A5, subject, project matter, form, purpose, discussion/update on unannounced industry. We need a motion and a second to go into closed session.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
I think we need a motion first. We get a motion.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Motion, to go into closed session, please.
I'll do the motion.
Okay. All in favor?
Second.
Second.
Yeah, Ron, I'll
All
do
in
that.
favor, please say aye. Aye. All right, we're in closed session.
All right, we're gonna go across the hall. All right, we're gonna certify PCSA closed session now. Be it resolved at the meeting of the Pittsylvania County Service Authority on October 20, 2020, the board hereby certifies by recorded vote to the best of each board member's knowledge only public business matters lawfully exempt from the open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act, and identify the motion authorizing the closed meeting were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed meeting. If any member believes there was a departure from the requirements of the act, he shall so state prior to the vote indicating the substance of the departure of the statement shall be recorded in the minutes of the commission. Mr. Davis? Yes. Mr. Dudley? Yes. Mr. Farmer?
Yes.
Mr. Ingram?
Yes.
Dr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Scarrett?
Yes.
Mr. Warren?
Yes.
All right, you need to adjourn the meeting, Chairman.
Motion to adjourn.
We'll make a motion.
Second. All in favor?